getting ready to start a 16-17 mixflow this morning. Need to go through the inspection and making sure everything's ready to roll, and then we're going to start drying some wheat today. This is the first startup of the year for me on mixflow. Be the third dryer for this year, but the first mixflow for this year. So we're going to see how things go. I start by climbing up top to inspect wiring and propane plumbing. So here, propane lines are all hooked up. They're all tight. The propane blow off is here, all installed right the way it's supposed to be. Plenty of hose here so it doesn't get tangled. I do a visual on the valve. This here, I normally like to see the regulator with just about 4 or 5 threads sticking up the top. Go over here, do kind of a visual inspection. Make sure our air line goes into the fan the way it's supposed to. The electric wires coming off. I always run them across, put them in a clip here, run down through. I run my electric on this side of the burner and my propane on the other side. Everything looks good up here. Full switch. The full switch is installed correctly. The only thing that concerns me, but I can't see, is did they put the plate in that keeps the grain from flowing across the top of the full switch. Top plenum. Just gonna check the sensors, make sure they're not rubbing any sharp corners. And not to beat a dead horse, but look at them beautiful half ducts. I like running a dryer where I know the grain moves the same speed through the whole dryer. Check the sensors. Ooh, that's not good. Need to screw that fast. That screw broke. Top 2 plenums are 4-tier plenum. And if you look here, this is a 9-tier plenum. This heat duct blows up in the air because of that, the height of the burner plenum. Inspect the sensors. Make sure they're the way they should be. That way they don't give trouble anytime soon. But this is plenum 1. Now we'll check the cooling plenum next, and then we'll move to the front of the dryer. This cooling plenum. Everything looks good in here. We'll just check to make sure that the air line was installed from burner 1 to watch the airflow. Go in here, and yes, air line comes in through the top and goes into the fan. Watch vacuum. So that looks good. We'll need to remember to open them vents. When the dryer is full, we'll return. Let's set up some remote access. Go to Tools, Connectivity Tools. Now call in, have your dealer connect to my Suka. You're going to have its device ID, and then you'll scan this to set up. So it said that the wrong switch was tripped first, and if we look here, they got 44 in the top, 53 in the bottom. That's backwards, so that made it throw an error. That strange IO. It threw a strange IO because we have our 44 and our 53 switched. So I'll fix that. Got the upper and lower fill switch wires swapped. And since the dryer is full, time to do an inside inspection and clean the plenums. Has some wheat on the floor, nothing bad. It's full, about 18% wheat. Floor is dusty, but not terrible, but I'm gonna sweep it up because I like clean dryers. So plenum 3 is clean. It's not perfect, but I got the majority of it. Normally, I sweep it together, scoop it up with my hands, and dump it into one of these ports, just to dump the corn back into the column. That's what I do when I have corn. But with it being wheat, there was so little in there, and it was mainly dirt. I just opened up this back door, this blowout door for cleaning the plenum, and I just swept it out on the platform because I didn't want that dust in there while I'm doing a warm-up. So that was plenum 3. Close that. We're gonna go down, get plenum 2, plenum 1, and inspect the cooling plenum. Plenum 2 has obviously got, I'd say twice as much grain on the floor as plenum 3 did. So we're going to sweep this up, and looks like more grain than dust here, so a little higher concentration of grain, so we might put this back in the column. I'll see what it looks like when we get it on a pal. Got a bunch of this swept together. One thing that I used to often forget is there on top of the burner. I used to forget to sweep that off, and then you'd come back a month or two later and you realize there's grain up there from when the dryer was first filled. Then it makes you a little concerned that it would catch fire. Never had any catch fire, but it's a concern. Normally like to use like a kitchen type broom. I forgot mine today. So I'm using this brush. I do have, it does look like it's about 50% wheat here. It's wheat and dust. It's not a lot of chaff. I think I'm going to put the majority of this back into the grain column because it's weight wise the majority is wheat. So I'm just gonna throw that back into the grain column. Ooh, some metal there. Nut. Okay, rest of that we're gonna just sweep out the back. So I open up this back door here, clean out door. You can let that open. Some people will let that open just to crack while running on screen type dryers to keep the plenum clean. That way any dust that comes in gets cleaned out. On the mixflow, they stay clean in the heat plenums, so that's not necessary. Plenum 2 is done, so we go to plenum 1. And plenum 1 is clean. So now we move on and check the cooling plenum. This cooling plenum has some dust in it, but not enough to spend any time in it. Time to dry wheat. Once the burners are running, I like to come up, check the propane lines. Okay, we've been unloading for about 10 minutes. We got a 16-17 mixflow we're running here today. And we're unloading at 1100 bushel an hour. Got our unload speed at 44%. We got our top plenum running 160, about 160, 150 on the middle, 136, 140 on the bottom. And we're early in our pass. We got 104 minutes before we're done with our first pass of grain through the dryer to get a gradient in it. And we got a grain temp of 95. We're running about 18% wheat in the top. So we're gonna let it run for 103 more minutes. And then we're gonna start pulling some moisture samples and see where we're at. We got our grain sensor settings, grain settings. See, we have our grain type set for wheat, and we are rolling along where it says we have a 12 to 12.5% wheat. I'm not sure how accurate that is. May or may not be accurate. Time will tell. I'm not gonna take it to the bank. I'm gonna roll for the next hour and 40 minutes into the dry bin because it's wheat, it's summer, and when the timer's up and we got a full pass, we are going to pull some moisture samples and see where we're at. Things are rolling along pretty smooth. We got the control setting at 98. We got 13.3 moisture coming out the bottom. We have 91 degree grain coming out the bottom. Our control temperature is 102. We're going to our graphs. Column temperature rolling along. We're running a little hot, but if we look, our unload speed, she's climbing here. Unload speed's coming up to bring that under control. And we're rolling. One final check-in before I leave. We're gonna look at the graphs. Column temp, that's what we're running on. Did a little jump there at one point. Seems to be rolling along pretty good on the setting. We put it in auto right about here. So this was our startup, our stabilization period. Our unload speed was rolling along fairly on manual, then it jumped, did a little jumping around there on auto, and seems to be rolling along pretty stable. Discharge moisture rolling along here. Did a calibration as it was off a couple 2%. Brought it up here, rolling along real close. Our goal is 13. We're closer to 13.5, but that's not a big deal going into the bin cooling. Everything seems to be working good. The one thing that I really is kind of cool on this new software is check out these numbers. They're blue when it's cold. Like when you show up and they're 60 degrees, the numbers are blue. They turn yellow, and as they get hotter, they turn red. So it's kind of cool. Cool visual. Also, it has the graphics of the fan, the heater's running. It's kind of neat. We're running along. We got a higher sample there, 13.7. Our average is running along 13.6. So that's interesting. I bumped this up 1 degree since I put it in auto, and I think I'm gonna give it 1 more degree just to get that so she runs below 13.5.